Cersei. Chucky. Round 2. Fight.
Hello Tarantula lovers, I'm Alex and welcome back to Tarantula Haven. Today I am attempting to pair my Harpectira pulchripes again. If you recall, on one of my previous videos it did not turn out so well and there were some mistakes that were made, so I made sure to rectify those mistakes to see if this time it will turn out better. In that previous video, when I introduced the male into the enclosure, there were some signs that should have led me to believe that this was just not going to happen. There was very little vibrating on the part of the male, there was no tapping whatsoever, and the female also showed absolutely no interest whatsoever. For a fraction of a second there, it seemed like something was going to happen, and then disaster struck. There were some mistakes made on my part. One of those, of course, was not recognizing those signs, and part of that was me just being excited about breeding this species. This has been a dream of mine to successfully pair this species, but the other thing was that I did not keep track of her molt date, so I didn't know how close she was to molt. After this had happened, she actually went about a month more, and then she molted. So she was still eating, obviously, but she was to the point where she was not willing to pair, and that was because she was in pre-molt. Soon after that, she quit eating, and then she did end up molting pretty soon after that. So after that disastrous incident, I had a friend of mine, and she's also a patron. Her name is Cindy. She contacted me and she said that she had a mature male Harpectira pulchripes and wanted to know if I could use him to try again with my female. So I agreed, and she sent him out to me, and this is what I'm using to try again this second time around. He came to me with a name. She is an avid horror movie fan, and she named him Chucky. Now, as far as my tarantulas are concerned, I don't usually name them because I have so many of them, but sometimes things happen that trigger something memorable, and it might even trigger a name. And because she is a golden blue leg, I consider her to be like blonde. It reminded me of Cersei of Game of Thrones, Cersei Lannister. So that's what I named her, because she is a man eater. And I feel like that was a pretty appropriate name for her. So in this video, I'm going to try to pair her with Chucky. And I'm also going to pair my Hapalopus species Colombia, which is the pumpkin patch tarantula. At the same time that I had paired my Harpectira pulchripes the first time, I also tried with my pumpkin patch, and that one did not turn out so well either for the exact same reason. So let's see how that happens today. And finally, I think I'll throw in one more, and that is my Dolichothele Diamantanensis. I've got a little mature male that matured recently, and those guys are so fun to watch, and they're so easy to breed. I figured I could just go ahead and throw that in there in case something does not turn out so well. So let's see how Chucky and Cersei do. When I first attempted to pair these two, I tried to walk the male over into the female's enclosure, and that did not turn out so well. He ended up bolting and running down to the floor. I tried to put my foot in front of his path, but tarantulas don't understand obstacles. They just run up them. So it ran up my bare leg, and I was wearing shorts at the time, so it almost ran up my shorts pant leg. So I ended up pulling it tight, so he ran over them and climbed up to my belly, where I was able to capture him with a catch cup. So I did not do that again. I ended up getting a little bit smarter the next time and used a catch cup to move him over to the female's enclosure. The first attempt ended up being a failure. They just sat there staring at each other, and they did not attempt to vibrate or tap or do anything. So I ended up just calling it and pulling them out before anything bad happened. The second attempt ended up being a little bit more hopeful. He was doing some vibrating, some tapping, and he even went so far as to approach her, and she seemed a little bit more enthusiastic, and she tried to approach him as well, and he ended up backing off once she approached too closely. So he moved up to the top of the skull that's in there, and then she kind of followed after him, and when she got too close, he beat it out of there. He was too intimidated. On the third attempt, he didn't even act like he was interested. She acted like she was very interested. She kept going to the areas where he had been and palping the webbing and so on. But again, once she approached him, he ran up to the side and got out of there as quickly as possible. Well, things did not turn out so well. Fortunately, Chucky has survived multiple pairing attempts. He's just not interested. She is interested. After her molt and being fed and fattened up a little bit, she's very interested. She's receptive. She taps. She goes looking for him. She gets a little bit excited when he's in there. But he, at first, tried. It seemed like he was interested, but then he just gets intimidated every single time. He's got more life in him than the first male that I used. He's a lot more spunky, a lot quicker, and he's very quick to bolt out of the enclosure, but he just is not even entertaining the thought of pairing with her. He just runs right out of there as soon as she gets near him. So his survival instincts are kicking in more so than his breeding instinct. So that may not happen. One thing that I do have to say, and this is true about both of the males that I've gotten, is they're both very small males. Now, they are small males as far as compared to the females. They do tend to be a much smaller. However, I have seen pairings where the males have been a little bit bigger than these ones that I've used. So that may have a lot to do with it. they're just too small, too intimidated, and it may not happen at all. I will try again just to see, but I'm not taking the chances that I have before. If he's not interested, I'm not going to force the issue. I'm not going to make it happen, because all that's going to do is just end up with a dead spider. So that's it for the Harpoctera pulchripes. We will try again and see if we're successful, but I don't know if that's going to happen at all. So up next is the Hapalopus species Colombia large, and that is the pumpkin patch tarantula. When I first attempted to pair these two, it was the same day that I tried to pair the Harpoctera pulchripes with a disastrous one. And the same thing happened. It was a thing where the female was not receptive at all. In fact, she was very hostile toward the male. And it was for the same reason. I did not keep track of the molt dates. So if you are planning on pairing your tarantulas, take it from me, my mistakes. Make sure that you know when the last time they molted was, so that you can be prepared for that, because the closer they are to their molt, the less receptive they're going to be. And she was pretty hostile toward him. He was kind of receptive. He was tapping and looking for her, but she did not want anything to do with him. In fact, she tried to attack him a couple of times, and I just called it quits on that one. So incidentally, the very next day, she ended up molting for me. So, that's how close she was to molt. So of course she wasn't anywhere near entertaining the thought of breeding. She just wanted him out of there so she can molt comfortably. So now that she has molted and she's been fed, let's see how this one works out. Hopefully it will turn out a whole lot better, and much better than the H. pulchripes. So with the pumpkin patch, the male immediately sensed her as soon as he got into her enclosure and began tapping and palping, looking for her, and he even started to kind of dig into the substrate to try to find where she was located, but she was located on the opposite side of where he was digging. Once he found her, he rested his foot on top of her abdomen, and he kind of sat this way for a good little while before she did any moving at all. I expected her to move immediately, but no, she just sat there. He just sat there. He vibrated and tapped a little bit, but she was not moving a whole lot. So I was kind of worried about what might happen at this point. Once she backed out of her hide, the dance was on. They started to tap each other and kind of tickle at each other, doing the normal courtship ritual that they will do before they actually pair. So this was a really good sign. What a difference a molt makes. I'm pausing the video right here to show you the female's epigastric furrow, how it is open like this. I had a comment from a viewer saying that they had watched another person's video and that person had said that the female can flare her epigastric furrow at will. This has not been my experience. I think that was a bad choice of words. I think I saw that video. I would not have put it that way. The female can present or display the epigastric furrow during courtship. Usually they will rise up and the male will, of course, kind of scoot in underneath, holding her up. But I have never seen one flare their epigastric furrow or open it like this unless it has been inseminated. That's usually something that happens through manipulation and not necessarily voluntarily on their part. A lot of times this is a source of irritation for them after they have paired. Some of them will scratch at it and act as if they're irritated because, of course, they have been inseminated by the male, by him poking them with these sharp little emboli that go in there. So it's not exactly a comfortable thing for them, which is probably why it sits open like this for a little bit after the insemination. If someone knows differently, please leave a comment, because this is something that you don't always witness. You have to be able to see the epigastric furrow, and sometimes the females won't stick around long enough for you to get a good look at it. They'll run into their hide or their burrow, and you won't have direct confirmation unless you actually watch the insertion take place. So again, I've done several pairings, and the ones that I have been able to witness, this has been a thing that happens after insemination. So it looks like we had a successful pairing on that one. I look forward to her hopefully producing an egg sac. Incidentally, I moved her to a larger enclosure after that. I felt like the hammock box that I had her in was probably not big enough for her to be comfortable in to produce an egg sac for me. So I actually moved her into a little bit larger tarantula cribs enclosure. So hopefully she'll be more comfortable in that. I didn't feel like there would be a problem with doing that this soon after pairing her, because that will give her time to adjust and kind of adapt to that new enclosure, and then she'll produce her egg sac in there. So hopefully things will turn out okay. This will be my first time ever producing pumpkin patch tarantulas, so I'm hoping that things turn out really good on this one. And last but not least, I decided to throw in one more because the first one did not turn out so well, and that is my Dolichothele diamantinensis. I have a few females that I keep around, and I had a little male mature, so I figured I could go ahead and do that one. They're so cute, and the little males go through this whole dancing thing, and it's just fun to watch them because they're so easy to pair. They almost always seem to be very receptive, so let's take a look at this one. I love pairing the Dolichothele diamantanensis because those little males are so full of character. I love watching them do their little courtship dance and tickling the female, lunging back and forth, and so on. They are so persistent that they just keep trying, even though the female may not be receptive. A lot of times they're able to woo them over, but I know that this female has been recently molted and she should be more receptive than she is, but they're little grumps anyway, so that's probably the case here. All right, another successful pairing. This one was a little bit unusual from other Dolichothele diamantinensis pairings that I've done before. I've done a few of them, and most of the time they're really, really quick. But he took his time on this one. He propped her up, and he spent a whole lot of time tickling her and doing his thing. And I guess he pretty much was making sure that he got insertion with both pedipalps, because he held her up there for a good little while. And a lot of times these things are real quick, then they just run and they're, out of their way. So the female just did not seem very receptive at first. So that was kind of unusual too. I guess I'm lucky on that one. They ended up doing just fine. So everything worked out. And before I go, I wanted to give a huge shout out to my friend Cindy Ward. She is the one who sent me Chucky, and Chucky has provided me with entertainment, and he gave me a heart attack because he almost climbed up my pant leg when I was trying to pair him. So he is aptly named. He is a terror. And I did want to plug her Etsy shop, and that is Memories of Violet. And she's quite the crafty person, and she makes these little crochet spiders. And she sent me this one a while ago. This is a green bottle blue. And recently she sent me this one, and that is the Theraphosae species Panama, commonly known as the lava spider, but I think the name changed. I think it is now Davos species Panama. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I cannot afford one, so she sent me a little crochet one. I can actually afford one. I just choose not to because they're a little bit pricey. So maybe one day I'll bite the bullet, but in the meantime, I've got my little crochet one from Memories of Violet. And not only that, but she's also gotten into 3D printing, and I believe she's making some 3D printed products for tarantula enclosures. So look forward to that. Check out Memories of Violet at Etsy, and I'll put a link down below in the description. And I just wanted to show you my little pumpkin patch here. She is in her little tarantula cribs enclosure. This is the small slider, and you can get yours at tarantulacribs.com. And if you use the discount code THAVEN10, you can get 10% off your order. So that does it for me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you want to support this channel, I have a Teespring store where I sell Tarantula Haven merchandise. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. And if you'd like to become a patron yourself, there's a link down below in the description, as well as all the others. Until next time, keep loving them tarantulas.